When most people think of a Native American reservation, they think of what they see on the movies. But I'm here to tell you, it's way more different than that. You see, growing up on a reservation, leaving a reservation, being forced to move back on, I need you to understand something. This is a place of extreme poverty. Dilapidated mobile homes, and a few homes that are left here where I grew up are falling apart. It's a place where old ways and old traditions still rule. I remember being a young boy and my grandfather telling me that when your ears begin to ring, it means that one of the old ones are still around. You know how it is when you're a kid, your grandfather's talking, you're listening, but you're not completely and totally understanding the words that are coming out of his mouth. Well, let me explain something to you. You see, the first time I left the reservation, I had a phenomenal job. Things were going well for me. But it was almost as if the spirits here didn't want me to leave. Because I lost that job in 8 months. Fired out the blue for absolutely no reason. Had to move back on the res. And for those of you who sit around and say, you know, our ways, the old ways, the ways of the reservation are best. Yes, our spiritual ways and our true ways that we were brought up are fantastic. But the poverty, the abject poverty that we are forced to live in is unlike anything you see in America. It's something from a third world country. And the simple fact that everything is so private means that it just thrives on every angle. After I moved back to the reservation, I started drinking again. I'm not ashamed to admit it to you. I spent my days drunk, roaming around, giving pity parties for myself. And then it all changed. One night I'm walking up the road, bottle of liquor in my hand, and my ears begin to ring. And up ahead of me on the side of the road, I see these two glowing red, and this fear comes over me unlike anything I've ever felt. So much so I turned, cutting across someone's property, jumping fences, and headed inside of the house. That was the very first time I experienced the ear ringing, but over the next 3 months, every time I found myself drunk, my ears would begin to ring, and I started seeing things. The first time it was those glowing red eyes. The next time, it was these huge green eyeballs right there in the woods, staring at me. It got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, so much so to the point where I decided I was going to stop drinking. Have you ever thought to yourself that you might be losing your mind? That's where I was when this happened. I'm leaving a friend's house, walking back home, and I have stopped drinking. I'm talking about cold turkey. Not an ounce of alcohol in my system. When I see those glowing red eyes again, and this time I realize that it's a dog, but it's bigger than any dog that I've ever seen. Down on all fours, it's standing right there on the side of the road, and it's closing in on me. Stop right here and hold on for a second and let me paint a clear picture for you of the situation I found myself in. To my right hand side was nothing but woods. Directly to my left was a trailer home, and it had one of those small chain link fences. Up ahead on my left, which would have been directly across from where this thing was another trailer home. They had their light on outside, and it had one of those small chain link metal fences as well. That light from that house was all there was, illuminating this thing on the opposite side of the road. When I tell you it was massive, we're talking about a jet black dog down on all fours, and it's crouched down low, slowly moving towards me as if it does not realize that I see it. So I'm standing there thinking to myself, if I take off running, this thing is going to chase me. Then my ears begin to ring again. I'm talking about the loudest ringing sound I've ever heard. It is almost as if someone has a speaker in my right ear. And I hear this growling sound coming from those woods. Looking to the right, those gigantic green eyes are back. I tell you, those eyes are like 14 feet up in the air. And there is this low guttural growl. Let me say this. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation when you realize that you're in the middle of something that has absolutely nothing to do with you. You have found yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that's exactly where I was at that moment. I had found myself at the wrong place at the wrong time, because that dog stands up. And when I tell you it stands up and it's 8 feet tall, it stands up turns towards that wood line and takes off into those woods. And the sounds that I heard over the next 45 seconds were what Hollywood studios wish they could create. Growling, grunting, flesh thumping, bones crushing, teeth clashing, trees breaking. You can tell, you could tell they separated for 1 second because everything went silent. And then the noise erupted again. Trees breaking, teeth clashing, bones crushing, flesh thumping, grunting, growling, snarling, and then that dog comes flying out of the woods, bounces off of the roadway about 15 feet in front of me, slams into that chain link fence, rolls over, looks at me, snarls, stands back up, and then takes off, running into the woods again, and it all starts all over. Now let me say this to you. I know people are going to think I'm lying, I'm exaggerating. I'm telling you I'm not, but you can believe whatever you want. But what I did next was out of sheer panic, I began to run. And the next thing I realized is that I am running in circles, trying to figure out which way to go because my ears are overwhelmed with the noise of these two things fighting. So now the people who are in the houses are coming outside, so I hop the fence and run into one of their houses. And I need to explain this to you. I do not know these people, but I ran into their house, through the front door, out of the back door, through their yard, jumped the fence, and got the hell away from there. When I finally got home, the first thing I did was sit down at my kitchen table, open a bottle of whiskey, and have a drink. And as I'm sitting there, drinking, getting drunk, everything that my grandfather said started to come back to me. I remember him saying that when your ears begin to ring, those things are close by and you need to be paying attention. After that, I did everything in my power to get off of that reservation. Applied for hundreds of jobs and ended up settling for a job working as a security guard, making just barely enough money to rent a 1-bedroom apartment. And that was fine with me as long as I didn't have to encounter anything like that ever again.